Hey, we're up to Daf Chav Zayin. Today we're going to finish Perek Layachpar. Chaim, you could just move over, like in the seat over there, like a few seats over there, so I could see the person who hides all the time. Good, now I see. Yeah, it's that is correct. Anyway, so first Gemara, very interesting Gemara, a little math. I sent out the math chart today. So let's start the Gemara. Ama Ula. Elon hasamach lemeitzar b'toich sheshrei ama gazlanhu. An elon that is next to a meitzar, within 16 amis, the it's not your gazlan, but the tree is a gazlan. The tree is going to go ahead and steal from the person's field. In other words, within 16 amis, the tree goes ahead and nurtures from the land. After 16 amis, not, but within 16 amis, it's nurturing from the land. So therefore, if you have you're next to you're next to your according to Ula, if you're next to your friend's field, and therefore it's within 16 amis, the roots are stretching out, they're taking their nutrients from the friend's field, and the aim may be bikurim, and as a result, you can't bring bikurim because it says is called pri hadama shetavi me artzacha, but it's not coming from a artzacha because it's being nurtured by what? By that. Okay, so that's Ula's din. Okay, 16 amis. Now the Gemara asks right away, Minali le'ulaha, where does Ula know this din that a tree nurtures within 16 amis for? Okay, let's do the Gemara outside, guys. Let's do the math outside. It'll make things much easier. If I have a tree and I'm in the middle, so I have to go 16 amis in each direction. So it's really 32. You understand? I'm 16 this way, 16 this way, 16 this way, and 16 this way. In a square, it's 32. Okay, so let's do the computation. I sent it out. Everyone should have it. Okay, so Ula, everyone have it at the top. You good? Michal, I sent this. Did I send it to you? May, I don't think I sent it to you. Yeah. No, it's not the same.
Please.
I'm going to send it to you now. Here you go. Should have it. Okay. So now, Ula, 16 numbers all directions. So 32 times 32, you square it off, guys, is 1,024. So according to Ula, in every direction, the tree will be nurturing for 1,024 square amas. Good. Now, the Gemara wants to know where he gets this from. The Gemara is going to bring two Mishnahs, guys. Two Mishnahs in Masechta Shvius. Okay. The first one is speaking about Asar Netiyos. You have 10 small trees, but base saw. Now, a base saw is 50 times 50, guys. A base saw is 50 times 50, so that's 2,500. That's for 10 trees. Therefore, one tree would be 250. One tree would be 250, correct? So that is a much less than Ula. That can't be the source. Ula says 1,024, and this Mishnah, it's 250. Good? So we're going to reject that Mishnah. Good? The next Mishnah says full-grown trees in a base saw. So you still have the same computation of 2,500, but if you divide three trees into 2,500, you get 833 and a third. You get 833 and a third. So how is this close to Ula? If you square it off, it's 28.8, or 14 and a half by 14 and a half, which is 16 minus 14 and a half. It's 1.5 less than Ula's 16 by 16. Ula's is 16 by 16. This is 14 and a half by 14 and a half. Again, 1024 is 16 by 16. 833 and a third is 14 by 14 and a half. So the Gemara says, it's not Ula. The Gemara says, lay duck. You're not what? You're not being exact. So you're off by what? By an amma and a half. Now, guys, when you say lay duck, it's lechumra. You don't say lay duck lekula. According to Ula, guys, watch. According to the other Mishnah, you'd be pata from Bikurim at the 14 and a half, right? And then you'd be chayev. According to Ula, you'd be pata from Bikurim up to 16. So he's being makel. He's being makel. So that 1.5. So it's fair to say that this Mishnah is Ula, that loidak. Why? Because you're going to be off, guys, by 1.5. So loidak, it's not exact. When do you say loidak? That's when a chumrah comes out, loidak. When a kula comes out. Now, what's the kula over here? Ula will allow you to be pata from Bikurim for an amma and a half more. So that can't be the pshat. So the Gemara therefore switches gears, guys. Guys, are you with me so far? Guys, is everyone with me so far? The Gemara now switches gears and says, you were learning it squared. We're going to go ahead and not square, but a circle. Let me make this a little bigger. You're not square, we're going to go but a circle. Now, a circle, let's say you take a circle. We had this in Masech the Sukkah. You take a sukkah. You take a circle, it sounds the same. You take a circle and you put it in a square, it's going to be 3/4 of the square. In other words, a quarter less. So therefore, Ula was squared was 1024. We want to now go ahead and make that in a circle. So that would be, look, I wrote it out, 1024 times 0.75, which is 3/4, guys. Good? You understand what we're doing? Ula wasn't 1024. Ula, that's a square. It really was a quarter, a circle. So 124 times 0.75 is 768 versus 83 and a third. 83 and a third that's our Mishnah. That's our 3 trees in the 2500. That's the given. So now the discrepancy between 768 and 833, according to Ula, again, 768 is 16 times 16 is 256. Good? 3 into 768, guys, is 256. 3 into 83 and a third, again, those 3 trees, is 27.66. That squared is 16.66, or 16 2/3. 16 2/3 is leidak, because now Ula is coming out l'chumra, because he's saying 2/3 earlier than your pata. But once you get to, according to the Mishnah there, you'll be able to be pata from Bikurim 2/3 more. Guys, good? The only problem is going to be the half. So what did we do? We brought in 2 Mishnayos. We want to say, where did Ula get his din from? Clearly, he didn't get it from the first Mishnah. That discrepancy was 250 versus 1,024. It didn't work. We asked the kasha then on the Mishnah, the 3 into 2,500, where the large tree is going to be 83rd and a third. The problem was that it came out 14.5 by 14.5. It was Ula came out that he was more mako. 16 is more mako, because he said you pata bikurim another arm and a half more. Therefore, we switched gears and we said Ula is not 1024 because that's a square. Ula is a circle. The circle is 768. 768 squared is 256, or 16 times 16, and 3 into 833 and a third, which that's the Mishnah. 3 and 2,500 is 277.66, which is 16.6 times 16.6. So all you off is by 2/3. But the Gemara is going to say half. We'll deal with Rashi when we get there. Okay, let's see what we got. This should go quickly now. Says the Gemara, Amula. They may view me many bikurim because why? Because it's nurturing from someone else's field. The first Mishnah. This is the one that's 20. That was 1 tree and 25. Es and the tiyos. You got the tiyos is a sapling. It's a small tree. Amufuzaris that are what? Are scattered. B'toich beisa. They're scattered b'toich beisa. What's a beisa, guys? That's 2,500, 50 by 50, right? Choshin kol beisa b'shvilon ad Rosh Hashanah. You're able to go ahead and be chayrish the whole beisa up until Rosh Hashanah. Allah chamash misinai. Kama havilahu. How much is it? Trey alfin v'chamesh meya gamidi. It's 2,500. Right, 50 times 50. L'chol chad b'chad for each comma for each one. How much is it? In other words, 10 is 2,500. Each tree is alone. Kama matlu masim v'chamishin hot. 250. Says havi the ula. That's not ula. Ula is 1024. This is 250. Guys, right? You good? You shmak? Clear. Element at nan shloisha ilanos. You have 3 large trees. Shel gimel b'nei adam. Hari Elum, it's starfim, they combine together, there could be a Sada Elon. Guys, Nachmin with Sada Elon, Sada Lovin. Sada Lovin in the Shemitah year, you can only go to Pesach, this you can go till Stay Elon, you can go to Shavuos. Good? So therefore, it has a dinner Stay Elon, you can go to Shavuos. And the Chorshin on Aleph, called Beisabish for Lon. You can go ahead and each one you can go ahead and Chorish. Kama Havilahu, how much is it? Trey alfe vehe meir gamidi l'chol chad, 2,500 for each one. Now, kama matile, excuse me, kama havile trey alfe gamin gamidi l'chol chad kama. Each tree, it's 3 into 2,500. Matile tamna meya vitilsa. That's 833 and a third. So says the Gemara, kati nafish le deula. It's still larger than ula. Why? Because right, it's still larger than ula. Says the Gemara, like duck. It's not duck. You're not exact. It says the Gemara, ema daminan le duck lechumra lekula le duck. Ula is coming out of chumra. Kula, excuse me. He is 16. It's 14 and a half. Le duck mi aminan. Let me read that better. Like ema daminan le duck lechumra lekula le duck mi aminan. Says the Gemara, mi savis berivua. Do you think it's Ula was speaking, fellas, guys, when it was squared, which is 1024? The igula ka amrinon. He was speaking when what it was igula when it was round. Michti kama maruva yoisa ala igul. How much is a square more than a circle? Revia, it's a quarter more. So pashale zayin meya v'shishim v'tamni. You get 700, right? And what was the amount we had over here? You had 768, right? Zayin Meya Vishisa is 60 Vitamni, it's 768. It says Akati Poshle Palga, the Amsa. Now here he says a half. Guys, we got 2/3, correct? Guys, he says a half. So Rashi says that from a half to a third is negligible. If you look at the Rashi, guys, where the lines get wide, count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines down. The Istigarsi Poshle Trey Tilsa da Amsa. They're not Goyris a half, they're Goyris 2/3, which would be 66. So it comes out, the math comes out exact. So guys, we're good? So now, and this one is good because now Ula is Machmir. Ula is Machmir. Because he says you're after 16 you're chayiv, and they said no, it's 16 and 2/3 you're chayiv, and that's loidak. Very gishmak. With Horowitz, the math gets easier. Anyway, says the Gemara Vaita. Tashma. Okay, now we're going to ask on Ula. Hakoina. Okay, Hakoina Elon v'karkoi. Someone acquires an elon, a tree, v'karko, and it's accompanying ground. How much is that, guys? Mashma what? Any amount, correct? It's mashma any amount. You have a tree and it's karka. Maybe v'koira. You bring bikurim and you read the parsha what of Arami and Rabbi. My love kolshu, even a little bit, and not what, and not 16. Loi, Yud Vav Amma, 16. No kasha nula. Toshma. Okay, before we do this, I want to do Rashi on this one. Hakoina shtei lonis. Rashi, guys, where it gets wide, about 12 lines down. Hakoina shtei lonis. B'toich shel chaveroi. Maybe v'en. If you buy 2 trees and your friends, you bring and you don't read. Mashma 3 you do. Says Rashi, guys. L'kamon tanan. We're going to see this later on in the Masechta. If someone sells 2 trees to his friend, and he doesn't explain that he's selling him karka as well, he doesn't acquire karka. In other words, guys, you're buying trees, and you assume that what? If you don't explain karka, you don't get karka. All you get is the tree. And so who does the land belong to? The meicher. So you can't go ahead, Rod, and bring it and say anything. It's not yours. It's not yours, right? It's not yours. Avokana shloisha, if you acquire 3 trees and you don't say anything, nonetheless, kind of karka. You acquire karka as well. The alpha pishle pirish, even though you didn't explain that you're buying karka. Hilkach gabi bikurim nami shtei lonis mevi vein akira. You bring it because it's your tree, right? However, you don't read it. Leimatzi meimar priya adama shenasata li. The pri of the adama that you gave to me, because it's your adama. It's your pri, but it's not your adama. Ha gimel, the kona karka maybe v'kaira. Okay, so now we got it, guys. You hear? If you go ahead and buy 2 trees, you don't get the land with it. Maybe you bring it, you don't read. If 3 trees, even though you didn't explain anything, automatically what? You get the karka as well. Oh, the karka as well. Priyadama shenasatali. You could say that. Says the Gemara. Ananos, Kasha and Ula. Kanish Teilanis, Mendi, we're about 5 lines up from the bottom of Chav Zayin Amad Aleph. Kanish Teilanis, you acquire what? 2 trees. B'soy shel chaveroi. Maybe even a kaira because it's not your land. Hashloisha, maybe a kaira. My love kol shehu, even a little bit of land. Kashan Ulo says what? It's within 16 amas. Says the Gemara loy. Hachanami yudvavama. Same teretz. Toshma. Rabbi Kiva Omer. Karka kol shehu. A karka kol shehu. Chayiv b'peya. You'd have a din of peya, leaving it over for the aniyim. Uba bikurim. And you require in a karka kol shehu to bring bikurim. The koisven love prusbul. And if the loiva has karka, you will write a prusbul in the Shemitah year so as that the loan should not be mishamit on the days. V'nikna ima nechasim shein machrayis, and you could acquire within the nechasim shein machrayis. Guys, we learned in Masechta Kedushin something called a kinyan agav. If you're going ahead and buying from somebody karka, and at the same time you're buying metaltalin, all you have to do is make a kinyan in the karka, either kesef shara chazaka, and you won't require mashicha on the metaltalin. Automatically, it'll be acquired agavwa at the karka. So even if you have a small karka kolshu, it would work linyan bikurim, it would work linyan, it would work linyan prusbul, it would work linyan peya, it would work linyan agav. So guys, so the kasha is, you see that what? It says kolshu, and nonetheless what? With the assumption is chayiv and bikurim, but according to you, Ula, how can you be chayiv and bikurim? It's yonik from your friend. It's nothing. Even kolshu you be chayiv. In other words, according to you, why by 16 you're a ganif l'chayra kolshu? It's yours. Says the Gemara. Now we know that to be chayiv in bikurim, it's got to be one of the sheva minim. Chitim is one of the sheva minim. So it's not speaking about a tree. Ula said is then guys by a tree. This that you said Yechayiv and Bikurim is what is speaking about what? Chitim. And what's the raya? Dekanami the Tani, Kol Shahu. What can you plant in a Kol Shahu? You can't plant a tree in a Kol Shahu, right? But you could plant what? Chitim in a Kol Shahu. So it's meduyik that it's speaking about Chitim. It's not speaking about trees at all. And Mela, it's not Shver and Ula at all. It's not Shver and Ula at all. Toshma. Elon, you have a tree. Miktsosai be'eretz. Part of the tree what is in Eretz Yisrael. Part of the tree is in Eretz Yisrael, right? Umiktsas be'eretz, and part of the miktsas and bechutz la'aretz, and one is chutz la'aretz. So now l'chayra, you have mixed in over here. You have mixed in a chiyuv of kedushas Eretz Yisrael with a chiyuv of chutz la'aretz. What's the din? Tevel b'chulin muravim zeh b'zeh. It's tevel, meaning it's like truma that wasn't tithed, and chulin mixed together, and the mela you won't be able to use it through mafish truma, guys. You won't be able to mafish truma on it because, in other words, you can usually mafish truma one thing on another thing. You can't use this because why? That's chulin mixed in. That's chulin mixed in, and therefore you can't be mafish truma on it. Right? What? So we're saying that no. Let's say I have truma, chiyav truma, and I want to say that truma chiyav, this truma should be on this. I can't do that because it's not a chiyav. Says the Gemara. Rebbe. These are the words of Rabbi. Hagodol b'chiyav, that grew in Eretz Yisrael is chayiv. Hagodol b'petur, and that grew in Chutz La'aretz is pata. Good. In other words, Rabbi says it's mixed together, and Reb Shimon Gamliel makes a distinction. He makes a distinction. That grew in Eretz Yisrael is chayiv. That grew in Chutz La'aretz what is pata. Yeah. The branches. You know where the branches are now. Ad kan le pligi Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, Ella, Mendi, your favorite sugya. The masava yesh breira, umasava ain breira. Now, guys, watch. It's a shaila of breira. Rebbe Shimon Gamliel says yesh breira, meaning what? The stuff that's in Eretz Yisrael is huvra, that it's kaidish, it's truma. The stuff that's in Chutz La'aretz is huvra, that it's what? Chulin. And Rebbe says ain breira, and therefore it's mixed together. Good. That explains the machlokes and breira, and that's why the Gemara brings it in Gittin. And Chavpeis and Gittin, they bring this Gemara because of the breira aspect. Avol, let's say the whole thing grew in chutz la'aretz, guys. Aval higdil, in other words, but gadol bibtur, if it grow, all the shroshim are in chutz la'aretz, divya kol pata. Everyone would hold your pata. Even with 16 amis of Eretz Yisrael, you'd be pata. Guys, what did Ula say? Guys, look at me. Guys, look at me. What did Ula say? If you have a tree on your meitzar, it's stealing from your friend's property. So watch. Here's Eretz Yisrael. Here's Eretz Yisrael. Here's my tree. Here's Eretz Yisrael. Here's my tree. What did we just say? What? You say, since the tree grew in Chutz La'aretz, it's pata. But one second. According to you, Ula, you should be chayiv because the shroshim are going into Eretz Yisrael and it's being made from Eretz Yisrael. You see, you don't go if there's 16 amis. Kashan Shmuel. On Ula. Kashan Ula. You see when if the whole shiloh over here is because Sam is in Eretz Yisrael and Sam is Chutz La'aretz. If the shroshim were totally in Chutz La'aretz, despite the fact it's proximity to Eretz Yisrael, you'd still be potter. According to Ula, you should be chayiv because the shroshim are growing into Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, you know we're speaking about over here? The mafsik tsunma. We're speaking with there's a rock underneath the shroshim, and therefore they're not being yonik from each other. Therefore, if the whole thing is in chutz la'aretz, to be pata, because there's a rock stopping it from going into Eretz Yisrael. Hey, nachinami, if there was no rock, you'll be chayiv like Ula. But since there's a rock, you're pata. Guys, if there's a rock, my time of the Rebbe, fellas. If there's a rock, what did Rebbe say? But if there's a rock being mafsik, you have sap that's chutz la'aretz, sap that's Eretz Yisrael. Why does he go ahead and say that you what? Chayiv. Guys, if there's a rock being mafsik, that means you know the shroshim of Eretz Yisrael or Eretz Yisrael. And this is so the stuff that's in Eretz Yisrael should be Eretz Yisrael, the stuff in chutz la'aretz should be chutz la'aretz. So why does Rebbe say chulin utruma murav zebezeh? Says the Gemara, the Hada my time of the Rebbe, says the Gemara, the Hodri Arve, it gets mixed together when it goes up. It gets mixed together when it goes up. Well, my kamifli, what's the Svaras Machlokes? Masavar, Reb Shimon Gamliel is of the opinion. Masavar, Reb Shimon Gamliel is of the opinion. Masavar, Rebbe is of the opinion. Avira mivalvo, that as the sap goes up the tree, it gets mixed together again. So even despite the fact it was separated in the roots, when it goes up the trunk, it gets mixed together. Therefore, it's tevel v'chulin muravim zebizeh. Umar and Rishon Gamliel Sava, Hailachudei koi v'Hailachudei koi. Each one is separate. Each one is separate, and therefore what? That's the chutz la'aretz. That's an Eretz Yisrael. But the bottom line, it's not a kasha on what on Ula. Fred the Gemara, the Sheish Esrei Amma v'Suloi, only up to 16. It goes ahead and steals from somebody else's field, but not more. In other words, so we'd be masking that Ula. He's self-serve. So now we're saying only up to 16 and not more than 16? Not more than 16? For Tanan, there's a Mishnah. Marchikim esa ila min habar, chaf heyama. Guys, on Mishnah, you separate an ilan from a bar, 25 amis. So you see that what? It grows 25 amis. Amar Abaya, mezel tuva asle. I know it grows more than 16. It's not pshat. It only grows up to 16. It grows more than 16. However, it only weakens the land. It only takes nutriment from the land. Pirish. So in other words, to grow into a bar from that, it's going to go 25 for sure. Ula said is din it taking from the nutriments. Up to 16 amis it takes from the nutriments and nems from the land. More than that, it doesn't. Kiyasar of Dimi came up from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omar. Boy, my name Reish Lakish, me Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish is the following shayla from Rabbi Yochanan. Ilan asamach lemeitzar, an ilan that's next to a meitzar, but toch yud tesayin amis, 16 amis. Mahu, what's the din? Amalei. So Rabbi Yochanan said, like Ula Gazlan, who it's stealing from the tree is stealing from the nutrients of his neighbor. They may be bikurim, just like what? Like Ula. Kiyasa Ravin, when Ravin came up from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yochanan, you always have the Ravin and Rav Dimi, they're always coming giving conflicting reports about Rabbi Yochanan said. Echad ilan asamach lemeitzar, ve'echad ilan hanoitem whether it's next to the Meitzar or the Echad Ilan Hanoita, maybe B'Koira, you bring it, Shalmanaskein, Hinchli, Yeshua, Yisrael, Esaretz. Even if you can get nutriment guys from your friend's land, you still go ahead and bring it, because that's in other words, fellas, the takanis that he made, the Gemara asks why does that one a takanis? Yeshua made it the following din. If my tree is planted next to Avrami wine ribs, and it's going under, and I know it's getting nutriment from Avrami wine ribs land, so you could say it's not what the pre Adama Shenasatali, it's not the pre Adama Shatali, it's not the Adama Tavi Me'artzacha. Nonetheless, Yeshua said everyone has the same din. If it's your tree, you own the tree. If you own the tree and it's next to somebody's, it doesn't make a difference that it's getting nutrient from somebody's. It's your tree in Bikurim, and you can even say the parsha. That you can even say the parsha. That's the way the Rambam Paskins like. The Rambam Paskins like this. Okay, we finish up the parak with more din of hachachas nezikin. Elon shehu noite l'sada chaverai, an elon that is growing, and the branches. Until now, we've been dealing with the roots. Now the branches are being noita into your friend's field. Koitze mole hamardeya al gabe hamachrisha. They cut off the length of the mardeya on top of the machresha. Guys, eye contact. Mardeya is a cattle prod. They would go ahead, they'd pick it up, and they'd use it to be mizaris the animal. So picture this. I have 2 oxen. They're pulling a yoke, right? And I want to mizaris them. So I'm picking this up. So that's the length that he has to go ahead and cut his tree. The length that would allow me to pick up the mardeya before I go ahead and lead these oxen. That's the din. However, we see the carob and the sycamore tree uniquely different. These are very leafy trees, as we saw. These are very leafy trees. So, what does that call it from me? A plumb line? Yeah. Mashkolis is the plumb line. In other words, you would drop a line that Rashi brings, they take a piece of lead and attach it to a string, and to make sure the wall's straight, they'd put it down. I think they use lasers today, right? For that. They don't know plumb. Did you use plumb line when you started out? Sure. Anyway, so they had a plumb line, and they still use it. Oh. So you would cut off keneged the mashkoilis. In other words, if it's a leafy tree, you wouldn't be, it would, as soon as it gets to your boundary, you'd cut it off. Because it takes away a lot from the other person's field. It has a lot of sail, and it's going to go ahead, and it's difficult for the person's field. It's going to nem away the sun. So in other words, you go ahead, right, and you cut that right off at the boundary, by the plumb line. That's by what? By the proven shikma. Beis hashlachin, that's a field that needs irrigation. Kol ilon kenegen hamashkoilis. In that field, any tree kenegen hamashkoilis. That field, that field, when anything, whatever grows into the field that's a beis hashlachin, you're going to go ahead and use a plumb line to cut it down. Not only a chruv v'shikma. Abishol oimer kol ilon srak, any non-fruit bearing tree kenegen hamashkoilis. Question is, what did Ula say? Abishol say is din on in the Reisha regarding a regular tree, or in the Sefer regarding what? The Beis HaShlachim. Iboilahu. Abishol a Reisha koi or a Sefer koi? Is Abishol going on the Reisha? Is Abishol going on the Reisha? Or is Abishol going what? On the Sefer? So if going on the Reisha, he's going on the Sefer. He's going on the din that Yekoitis Molia Mardeya, and he's disagreeing, and he's saying every tree is a mashkoilis. Or is he going on the Sefer that a Beis HaShlachim, that the Tanakama says all trees you cut off, right? You cut off. And he's saying that it makes a difference if it's a fruit-bearing tree or a non-fruit-bearing tree. Tashma de Tanya. Beis HaShlachim, that the tree's growing into there. Abishol says that Kol ha'ilon keneged hamashkoilos, all trees are cut off like a plumb line, and mifnei shehat seil ra lebeis hashlachim, because the sail is bad for the beis hashlachim, and therefore you have to cut on the. Okay, so what do you see? Shmami know from Abishol that he's going on the Reisha, and he's arguing on the Tanakama. Tanakama says that Tanakama said Molim Radeya. He said for any tree. He said no. If it's a not for a fruit bearing tree with Maradeya, but if it's a non fruit bearing tree, you cut off Kfi Hamashkoilis. Ravashi Masis Namideka. The Mishnah is also Meduyak Diktani. Kol Elon Srak. All Elon Srak. He said there wasn't cold. He Bishlema. Very good if you can tell me Abishol is going into Resha, and his Abishol is saying that all trees, every tree, you cut off, not just the shikma and the charov, but every tree. Hanutani kol or Elon, any tree. Li Amir Sefer. If he's going on the Sefer, Elon struck me by lady. He shouldn't say kol because it's not true. He's saying Elon struck me by lady. He has to say without the word kol. He should just say what? Elon strak. He wants to be mamayat, right? That pachas mitanakama, less than the tanakama. So you should go ahead and say without kol. Lav shmamina, areisha koi shmamina. Says the Mishnah. Elon shall unite an elon that was growing the Rishus Harabim into Rishus Harabim. Koitzeitz kadeshi he gomel over v'roichvay. You go ahead and cut that the gomel can pass and its rider. Okay, that's the shear. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, a little different shear. Gomel toyin pishtan oichabilis murois. A gomel that is loaded with flax or bundles of twigs. Which is larger or not? The Gemara is going to ask. What? Yeah, and then the person himself. Right? The tree's going from. Tree's going from. Rabbi Shimon says, Kol Elon Kenegen HaMashkolos. Any tree that goes into Rishus Harabim, guys, you cut up by the plumb line. Now the Gemara wants to know what's the largest share, the Rabbi Yehuda's share of the load or the Chachamim share of the rider. Mantana, who's the Tana? The Minizikin Basa Umdina the Hashtaz Linan. Now, what's an umdina da hashta? Let's see Rashi, guys. So, first wide line. Basa umdina da hashta as leinon. Diktani kaitzis min anafim. Kadeshe yigamel oiver v'roichvay. Varichoizvin v'gadlim la'achamikan. Guys, you cut it off now, but is it going to grow back? Yeah. So you're doing it just for now. So it's an umdina da hashta. That's called an umdina now. You're not removing it permanently. You're not cutting down the tree permanently. You're going ahead and just temporarily taking care of the problem. Mantana ben Isikim, when it comes to damages, bust the umdina da hashta. We go after the umdina da hashta. Who's that opinion? Reish Lakish says Reish Lakish machloikis shenuya. So machloikis, well, the machloikis Rabbi Eliezer, and it's the Tan Rabbi Eliezer Tatnan. Ein oisen cholo tachas Rishus Harabim. You can't make an excavation underneath Rishus Harabim because going, for example, you can't go ahead and put them underneath Rishus Harabim because they'd fall in. Rabbi Eliezer mater Eliezer commits you that if you strengthen the ceiling, guys, if you strengthen the ceiling to the extent that an agola passes over it that's laden with stones, right? You could do it. Over time, it's going to go ahead and get weak. We don't care. So we want to say Rabbi Eliezer, who says that you can build an excavation underneath Rishus Harabim as long as it's supported at the top, despite the fact that that over time it's going to go ahead and get weakened. He's the one, and our Mishnah says you can go ahead and cut up to the rider, despite the fact over time it's going to go back. So that's the umdina da hashta. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, no, I feel it tame Rabbanan. Even the Rabbanan who disagree, Rabbi Eliezer over here they'll agree. Hassam by the kisei of that underneath. Maybe it's going to get weaker. You don't know if that, over time the infrastructure is going to break, and you don't even realize it. So therefore they disagree. Aval hacha, over here you could see it. So kama kokayaslei. What happens if you see it growing? You cut it more. So in other words, over here they would be masking that this umdana you could go ahead and cut only up to the point of the rider. Only up to the point of the rider. Rabbi Yehuda says, the Tanakama said the gomel and the rider. Rabbi Yehuda said the gomel and a load. Iboilahu. Shiuri the Rabbi Yehuda nafish. Is the share of the Rabbi Yehuda greater? In other words, it's a higher share than the gomel and the rider. Idil mashiri the Rabbanan nafish. And maybe it's the share of the Rabbanan that's higher. Says the Gemara, Pshita the shiur the Rabbanan nafish. The Rabbanan are giving you a larger share. Disal kedaitak shiur the Rabbi Yehuda nafish. Rabbanan b'shiur the Rabbi Yehuda hechi. Guys, how could you be lower than that? In other words, it's not possible. If the share Rabbi Yehuda is greater than the Chachamim, right? Therefore, if you cut according to the Chachamim, how is the Gomel ever going to go ahead and pass with the Pishtan and the Zemurs? Guys, you're telling me the share according to the Chachamim is over here, Rabbi Yehuda is over here. So according to the Chachamim, how are they going to be able to pass? They're never going to be able to pass. It's going to run into the load. Ve'lamai shir the Rabbanan nafish, the shir the Rabbanan Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda b'shir the Rabbanan mayavid. What are they going to do? It says no. After the Gachim b'chalav to take. Guys, so what? You know what? It's possible if you go to shir Rabbi Yehuda, you go ahead, you bow down. Rabbi Yehuda, the shir the Rabbanan. In other words, you get what happens. It's a larger share. You're going to go ahead and duck your head. Efshe the Gachin the chilav to toy. It's possible to go ahead and lower your head and go underneath. Rav Shimon says, "Kol ilan kenegan hamashkoilas with neyatoma." That any projected that goes out into Rishus Harabim, you'd have to cut off because of tumah. What are we worried about? It may go ahead and bring tumah into Rishus Harabim. Guys, kahanim, they stay off the interbaro. You know that? You drive the interbaro. What about the trees that grow over there?
They don't go.
Huh?
Doesn't go.
There's a group that monitors that.
Yeah, the streets also like regular, but now they come back.
The Shomrim Patrol?
I do not know who cuts them back, but somebody cuts them back.
Okay, so that's the problem over here. You have a tree growing, you maybe have a kasayas from mace, and you have a problem of oil. Good? So the Gemara says, Shimon Aimer, your kites is called Ilam K'negan HaMashkalas Neyatuma. Tana, if they oil had tuma. Why do you worry oil tuma? So Pshita, what else are you talking about? Neyatuma tonight, it says because of tuma. So even Masnis and Havamina, Dilma Maisi Oirev, Tuma, B'Shadi Hasam, maybe a bird, a raven, is going to bring a piece of nevela or not nevela, of a mace. The Sagya B'Dachlule Ba'olma. In other words, what are we worried about? Guys, not that it's projecting from Rishus Harabim, from Rishus Hayachim to Rishus Harabim. You're worried in the Rishus Harabim itself, that the raven's going to drop it into the tree, and it's enough to go ahead and trim the tree around so it won't be able to hold the corpse, the piece of corpse. It's enough to trim it. Kamashmal on that what? That it comes from the Rishus Hayachid into Rishus Harabim. Very interesting toises, guys. Last toises. Rashi learns about the Chulei Sagi trimming the what? Trimming the trees. Pirish Rach, the Chlule is Lashon Yira. Sha'isat Surah Shel Eitz. V'nir K'mnei Adam. You can make an image of a man that looks like from Eitz. It's a scarecrow. You make an image of a scarecrow. The Eina Oif Rishoi Lishar Sham, and it's not going to, hang around. Kamash one, Yafi Shebarach Oif, even though Oif is going to run away. Hamayim Shemashe Sham Basa Mace. They'll leave the piece of mace there. Shemevi Befiv. V'nisha Sham Banaf. It's going to remain there in the branch. Hilkach Ein Le Takone Ela B'Katzitza Enough and Cool. You have to go ahead and cut them all down. Hadron Alecha Layachba, Hadron Alecha Layachba, Hadron Alecha Layachba. Okay, Bez Hashem. Tomorrow night, I think we'll call it out for 10 o'clock. The tightness is over like 9:05. What?
Do it earlier.